Well, good morning, everybody. On my last video, I showed you melting plastic and kind of squeezing it into a mold, and thought I'd show you the little tiny piece of pipe with the end cap welded on, and just a great big hole, and that's what the plastic squeezes out of. Yeah, it was real simple to make, and then this part, I just cut a piece of aluminum and put a bolt through it, and turned it on the lathe. And I actually made it a little too small. That's why the plastic kind of it squirts out here. But it works, and I can make a new one. It's not a big deal. So yeah, real simple. And I was telling you guys about the Amateur Redneck Workshop, and watching his videos on making the knobs, and it was really impressive. I think that's cool. But I don't have a nice lathe, and I don't have a 4-jaw chuck, and I don't have any thick aluminum. All I have is this little stuff. And I really wanted to make a knob just to see, how it would come out. So what I did is I came up with a little different way to do it. I cut, a couple pieces of this square aluminum, and I tapped it. I drilled and tapped it, so it's 1/4 20. So I can thread this 1/4 20 nut or bolt on in here, and I leave it a little proud. I don't suck it up. And then I put a nut on it. Now, let's see. With a nut, and with this bolt tightened up, and with a nut tightened up on the back, I can grab it with my 3-jaw chuck in my lathe, and I cut this little groove that fits this piece of pipe, and that locates that piece of pipe. And then I made another one that wasn't, well, I didn't waste any time threading it. I just drilled a hole. It was a smaller hole than this, but I drilled a hole, and I put the bolt in and the nut and tightened it up and put it in my 3-jaw chuck, and I turned that little groove, and same little groove as the bottom piece. Okay, and that kind of just, it loosely locates where that is. The top piece is even less important than the bottom, because it won't knock off the centering of the bolt. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's the top. So I leave. This is after I had all this made. Now I can throw this back in my lathe and get rid of the square corners, and then I can mount this whole round disc in my 3-jaw chuck and make a little, and cut some of this center out a little bit to make it a little proud in the knob. But this is how I do it when I'm gonna push the plastic in. I just put the rings together like this and set the pot on top, and roughly centered up, because where the holes line up, and then heat it up with the torch. And this aluminum gets screaming hot, so after I've pressed the plastic in, I dumped some coffee on it, some cold coffee, and that cooled it down pretty good. Yeah, so I could get the pot off the top and cool it down more, and then I was able to take it apart, and it like unscrewed, right? And this part kind of unscrewed, and I put a punch in here and just punched that. There's a little piece of plastic that hangs out in there, so I just punched that off, and then I took this ring and put a a pair of a pipe wrench on it and turned it, and the plastic came loose and it came off, and then I was able to unscrew the bolt and unscrew the knob. And I'll show you the knob I made. Not nearly as fancy as Harold's, but yeah, still pretty darn nice. Better than I've made before. What's cool is this plastic's machinable too. I could stick this in my lathe and machine it down. And I'm thinking I can take my drill press or the mill and just mill grooves on the inside, and that would put a nice grip on the handle. But yeah, it's a 1/4-20. It's a nice 1/4-20 knob. It's kind of cool. I was happy I was able to figure out a way to do it, because I've got some uses for some knobs, and this is as good as any Chinese knob I could go buy. I like it. Okay, take care.